You ever watch a neighborhood blow up with police cars because someone called 911 about moving boxes? Yeah, that happened. Karen's voice was still ringing in my ears. There's a suspicious person breaking into the house, and all my wife was doing was carrying boxes into our own garage. I wish I was making that up. 10 minutes later, blue and red lights are strobing across Westfield Gardens like they're tracking down a fugitive. That's when I knew this place was going to test every ounce of patience I had left after 20 years as a defense engineer. So picture this. I'm Jack Coburn, 42, recently retired from designing security systems for buildings where you're not even allowed to bring a pencil without an escort. My wife Elena just got cut from her DARPA gig, so we landed here thinking maybe it'd be our easy year somewhere to stretch a dollar and maybe get bored. But as the cops rolled up their headlights bouncing off our steel gate, it was clear we'd landed in somebody else's crime scene. The cherry on top, my grandfather's M60, strictly for show, decommissioned decades ago, mounted on the balcony, looking real enough to make even the mailman sweat. Karen and her friends probably thought they'd uncovered a warlord's den. But I was only armed with the law this time, literally waving the property deed through the gate intercom. "Present your search warrant before entering," I said, keeping my best poker face while Elena's DARPA box glared like a neon sign. Karen figured she'd just won the HOA's Vigilance Award. Poor thing. She had no clue she'd kicked off a full-blown war, and she'd just picked the worst possible target. See, Beverly Monroe. The self-proclaimed neighborhood watchdog had been watching us through her window with the focus of a CIA spook. When she spotted Elena's box with that DARPA logo, the color drained from her face. She wasn't being nosy, she was scared. I couldn't shake the feeling there was more going on here than a garden variety busybody. The police showed up looking for burglars. Instead, they got my custom fortress mode, steel gates, locking cameras, rolling motion sensors, pinging my phone. Elena didn't miss a beat. She started recording, asking the officers with absolute calm, "Could you clarify what law you believe we're violating?" Her voice, steady as a judge, was already building our case before they could even stutter out an excuse. "We're happy to cooperate," she said, "but please explain why you're here." The officers traded glances, clearly out of their depth. I stayed on the balcony holding paperwork and a phone, doing my best not to look like a trigger-happy retiree. "Do you have a warrant, gentlemen? Or is this some kind of emergency?" I called down. At this point, the logic of the situation was almost hilarious. Beverly reported a break-in in broad daylight by people with keys unloading boxes with their own names on them. The cops standing inside a gated community now realized they were trespassing, and Beverly... She'd already disappeared back inside, curtains twitching. Finally, the senior officer got sensible. "Sir, can you show us ID and proof of residence?" "Sure." We handed over everything: ID, property deed, moving contracts, the works. The officer looked at it all like he'd just stepped in quicksand. They left in a hurry, but as they drove away, I saw Beverly on her phone again. Only this time she sounded scared. "They're not just new neighbors. We need to clean this up immediately." Elena's eyes met mine. "Jack, what did we just walk into?" The answer took me to the county clerk's office the next morning, digging through public records like a man with something to prove. The clerk barely blinked as she handed me the HOA filings. There it was, Beverly Monroe's application to run for president on top of a death certificate. Turns out the real Beverly Monroe died 3 years ago. Our neighbor was an imposter running the show with a dead woman's name. And the signature didn't even match the DMV fingerprint card. A few more hours of digging and I got her real name: Margaret Maggie Kellerman. Federal fraud conviction. Spent 2 years in prison for running shell companies and trying to sell defense secrets. After prison, she decided the HOA world was easier money, less federal heat. That evening, Elena and I sat with those documents between us. Realizations settling like dust. "She's running a full-blown identity theft operation," Elena said, her old analyst instincts kicking in. And the way Maggie panicked at Elena's box, not paranoia, just the reflexes of a seasoned criminal who thought the feds were closing in. But here's the kicker. Elena's DARPA boxes held nothing dangerous. Environmental monitors, not weapons. But to someone with Maggie's rap sheet, that logo was a nightmare come true. Elena made a casual call to the HOA, trying to see if Beverly ever used her real name. The nervous secretary wouldn't say a word. Meanwhile, I kept digging and found that the HOA was paying serious money to a company, Westfield Maintenance Solutions, run by Maggie's 20-something nephew who didn't even live in the neighborhood. 130 grand for projects nobody had ever seen: pool repairs, playground upgrades, streetlights. None of it real. The perfect scam: take a little from everyone, keep questions to a minimum, control the investigation. Classic closed loop. Elena's second win, overhearing Mrs. Harrison at the store bragging about her husband's booming HOA law practice, new BMW and all. I started connecting dots. Every time Maggie funneled HOA cash to a fake company, Bill Harrison drafted the paperwork, and his firm got a nice cut. Meanwhile, our neighborhood was falling apart. It would be funny if it weren't so infuriating. Just as we're piecing this together, the spam emails started smearing Elena as a national security risk, accusing her of being a spy, painting her as a danger to the neighborhood. Sophisticated enough to fool the uninformed, but Elena traced the email metadata in minutes, every message coming from a local IP, complete with GPS tags pointing straight back to Maggie's house. Neighbors started pulling away, some afraid, some just confused. My brother David called from California. Jack, they use the same tactics here. Lies, rumors, fake emails. We lost our house because nobody would back us up. That's when the real chill set in. This wasn't just one corrupt HOA president. This was a playbook, a pattern used from state to state. Then the break we needed. Michael Torres, the HOA treasurer, knocked on our door with a manila envelope and a face that hadn't slept in days. "I can't let this go on," he said. Inside were years of records, proof of embezzlement, forged invoices, cash transfers, everything. He'd watched Maggie steal for years, but had been too afraid to speak up. "She threatened my family," he whispered, "but I want my daughter to live somewhere honest." With Michael's evidence and Elena's forensic work, we uncovered the scope. Fake vendors, phony repairs, money laundered across multiple HOAs through lawyers like Harrison. $2 million gone. And this wasn't just us. 3 other neighborhoods, the same scheme, the same pattern. Detective Carter from the FBI finally called. "We've been tracking these HOA fraud networks for years," she said. "Your records tie it all together. The feds had what they needed. They just needed a public reveal." We set the trap, a special HOA meeting. Elena ran the AV like she was briefing the Pentagon. Slide after slide invoices next to real photos of broken playgrounds and burned-out streetlights. Emails traced back to Maggie financial records, tracking stolen money to her hidden condos in Florida and Arizona. Maggie strutted in, flanked by her lawyer in 2 nervous suits. She tried to keep her composure as Elena calmly explained, "The person you know as Beverly Monroe died in 2016. Your HOA president is Margaret Kellerman, convicted of federal crimes." The room gasped. Mrs. Peterson nearly fainted. The suits tried to slip out, but the exits were covered by federal marshals. When the FBI badge flashed, you could hear a pin drop. Michael took the mic. Voice trembling but strong. "Over $130,000 in our HOA funds stolen. None of these projects ever happened. The money went straight into fake companies and Maggie's pocket." Elena introduced Detective Carter. "This isn't local corruption. This is a multi-state, multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise." Carter revealed the manual for franchised HOA fraud, an actual how-to guide on stealing from your neighbors. And when Carter played phone recordings, Maggie's own voice talking about eliminating threats, Harrison tried to bolt, but a marshal blocked him. The rest, well, it was all handcuffs and Miranda rights. Maggie looked at us with that mix of hatred and respect. "You have no idea what you've just destroyed. This network won't go quietly." In the end, it was a victory for the good guys. Federal prosecutors froze the accounts, recovered $8 million in assets, and sent Maggie and Harrison away for a long, long time. Our community got every cent back and a little more for real improvements. My brother called over the moon. Jack, your fight here helped me get justice in California. They settled for $500,000. Elena got a new role at DARPA, now hunting organized crime in local governments. I got elected HOA president unanimous for once. We built new safeguards, regular audits, transparency, whistleblower protection, background checks. Because the truth is, trust is easy to lose and hell to rebuild. And still, it's not over. One night the phone rang a detective in Florida. Our HOA president disappeared with $2 million. She left a note with your name. Same playbook, different state. Sometimes it feels like there's no end to it, but at least now there's a way forward. Ever felt powerless against a rigged system? Ordinary folks like us took down $1 million network. Makes you wonder what's hiding behind the HOA in your neighborhood. What little signs have you ignored? Drop a comment below if you've ever tangled with an HOA, fought for justice, or just want to see more underdog stories. This isn't fiction. These are real tools for real justice. So, whose side are you on?